When I was managing a rural water system, I hired a man that I've known him. I knew him for years. He was around the community, and I knew him when I was a little kid when he came home from Vietnam, and I just knew, number one, what a hard worker he was. What number two, what life experience he brought to it, and the passion he had as a veteran, and it mattered to me. That was a pretty easy hire. And one of the first questions I asked him was whether or not he minded talking about his experience in Vietnam, because this was an individual that was out there right on the front of it all. And he said, no, he didn't mind. I was raised to ask that before I ask questions. And, you know, I think that the telling of these stories, that people knowing what happened, is so vital. It's so important. Edward Lutenberger is the communications director for the National Vietnam War Museum. Let's bring him in and get a chance to visit with him. Edward, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thank you for having me.
I can tell you this, Lyle Prochnow will be at the National Vietnam War Museum. It'll matter that much to him. Tell people about the museum, if you would, Edward.
This is a project that was started back in 1994 by a group of Vietnam helicopter pilots. We formed a local chapter of the Vietnam Helicopter Pilots Association here in Texas. And we wanted some kind of a legacy. And we decided that, well, we'd build a helicopter museum in Mineral Wells, Texas, which is where Fort Walters, Texas is. And Fort Walters, Texas is where about 40,000 helicopter pilots who flew in Vietnam got their initial training. Shortly after we got going, we talked to a couple of consultants, and they told us we were thinking too small, that we needed to focus on a national venue that would address the entire Vietnam War and the Vietnam era. And that got us started. It took us a while to really gain any traction. But in 1999, we purchased a 12-acre parcel in outside of Mineral Wells, Texas, about a mile from Old Fort Walters. And that was the beginnings of the museum. We paid that piece of property off a year later, and for 7 years, we went about fundraising, trying to get something going on the property. And in 2007, we built the first garden, which we called our meditation garden. It has flags in it for the U.S., Texas, and POW flag. It's got a labyrinth trail in it, native plant, and it is loaded with memorial bricks and plaques for Vietnam veterans and Vietnam units. After that success, we got some public attention, and we started adding gardens every year. The next year, we had acquired a UH-1 Huey from surplus property that was a Vietnam veteran, and we put that up on a pole in what we called our reflection garden. And when we were doing that, we were approached by a group from the 52nd Aviation Battalion who'd served in Vietnam in Pleiku. And while they were in Pleiku, they had built a wall of, to honor the members that they'd lost in that war. When the war ended, they couldn't bring the wall back with them. It was left behind. They asked if they could build a replica in this garden. And we said, go ahead, do it. And so they did. The next year, we opened what was probably our signature garden, the Vietnam Memorial Garden, with a half-scale replica of Vietnam Wall. And to the best of our knowledge, we have the only replica wall that can be updated to match the one in D.C. And we'll be doing another update this May to catch up with the names that they've added in the last 2 years. The year following that, we acquired a piece of what we call an artifact from surplus property, and it was a double-wide trailer. And most people look at this; it's our visitor center right now, and don't think of it as an artifact until they hear the history behind it. And what it was the headquarters for the staff at the Crawford Ranch, President Bush, when he was in residence there. And it's now, as I say, our visitor center. We use it as our offices, and also have displays and artifacts in there for right now. In 2017, we started construction of our permanent building. It's a 20,000 square foot building, 2 floors. On the ground floor, we're going to have 3 separate galleries. The first is the Introductory Gallery, which will take you sort of from the early days of the country of Vietnam through U.S., through the French involvement, through U.S. involvement, just to give you kind of an overview. The next gallery is what we call the Home Front Gallery, and the centerpiece of that is a replica of the Oval Office. Initially, it will be the LBJ Oval Office, because that's when we actually entered into what's known as the American part of Vietnam. And then the third gallery is the Fort Walters, Camp Walters Gallery. As I said earlier, Fort Walters is where the helicopter pilots trained. And Camp Walters, its predecessor, was the largest infantry replacement center in World War II. And one of the people who actually trained there was a young man from Texas by the name of Audie Murphy.
Really?
So we'll be telling that story as well as the story of Fort Walters. And then on the second floor, we've got our 4,000 square foot art gallery with Vietnam-related art. And our offices will be up there, as well as a multi-purpose room and our library. The multi-purpose room we use for a lecture hall, for a meeting place, and various community activities.
Well, you're not letting grass grow underneath your feet.
No.
You know, I only have a little bit of time left. I could have listened to that all day. To have a half-scale replica of the Vietnam Wall that's in D.C. I've been there many, many times. You know, that just, okay. With the minute I have left, what are you doing for money? Because a lot of people listening right now are Vietnam vets or family of Vietnam vets, and they're going to want to chip in. I mean, what are you doing for money?
We have an outfit in Virginia that is doing mailings for us, solicitation. We also have a donation page on our website, www.nationalvnwarmuseum.org.
There we go. We're going to help out any way we can. Edward, here's what I want to ask you. Because there's been so much thought put into what you're doing with that piece of ground you have, and I never even got a chance to talk to you about being a helicopter pilot or knowing those helicopter pilots. So I'm going to ask you this. Can I get you back on another time?
Yes, you can.
All
Just
right.
let me know when you'd like.
All right. There's such a story to tell here. We're going to do that. I'm going to talk to my producer, and we're going to do it. Edward, thank you so much.